A tropical wave out in the Atlantic has a high chance to become our next named storm, which is the name Gabrielle. Here to give you the latest information that we have from the overnight to morning model runs. There has been some changes, a bit of a model war right now. Some models still liking the idea of a stronger scenario, and some are liking the idea of a much weaker scenario, not even really developing this at all. So here to just feed you all the latest and greatest detailed information. After we speak on this, we'll talk a little bit about a hurricane out in the Pacific that could bring impacts to Hawaii sometime next week, and then we'll round the video off with today's forecast. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it, and if anybody has anything I can pray about or pray over, please put it in the comments below. Let's get rocking and rolling this morning. Let's make sure it's going to work for us. And it is just the wrong color, so let's get this back off and use this much better. So where's our tropical wave? First off, this is the MDR, main development region. We got the Lesser Antilles over here. This is northern sections of South America. This is Africa. So our wave is sort of right in the middle of everything. It's right here. Looks like it's barely moving east to west, and it doesn't look very impressive at all. In fact, the circle area doesn't even look any different than, say, this or this, but you know, this is our tropical wave right here, and it looks very disorganized. It doesn't look like it's showing any signs of organizing into a depression or anything like that right at this moment. So I want you to keep that in mind as we continue to make our way throughout this video. But there's really nothing to really dive into with this system right now. It looks pretty much the same as it's looked over the last 24 hours. So that is the wave we are watching right here. So let's continue to move forward. Latest from the National Hurricane Center. This has a 90% chance still to develop between now and the next 7 days. It has a 60% chance to develop between now and the next 48 hours. And when I say develop, I mean into a tropical depression or a named storm, which would be Tropical Storm Gabrielle. So this information has not changed much over the last, I would say, 24 hours. They still think this has a high chance to develop, and you can freeze the video if you want, pause it, read the discussion. I'm not going to read it word for word, but I will mention it says environmental conditions are favorable for development of this system, and a tropical depression is likely to form by this weekend. So we got that. Now let's go over what everybody wants to hear about, which is the latest and greatest from all the model runs. So the Euro started changing up on us yesterday afternoon, and I mentioned, if you tuned into last night's video, I was really eager to see what the Euro was going to show overnight. So we're going to show it to you now. We're going to start this off with Saturday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon. If I do forget to mention any kind of days of the week or dates, it's up here. It's kind of small, but it is on your screen because I'm going to forget sometimes, as just a lot of information floods to my brain as I try to say it. So here we go. Low pressure down here. It is so weak, it barely even shows up on your map. You wouldn't even know it's there if there wasn't an L there. And in fact, the L actually disappears. So where'd it go? We get into Sunday, we get into Monday, you get into Tuesday, your eyes do not deceive you. There's nothing there. This right here is not it. It's somewhere into here, and it's such a weak piece of energy based off of what the Euro is showing us, this model run, not a forecast, that it doesn't even reflect on the screen. I will mention, I might as well show it to you also, there is another wave. It's starting to show behind this a week out, but that is not what is dubbed Invest 91L, which I should have mentioned at the beginning of the video. This has been dubbed an Invest, which really I don't think is super important information at all. But anyways, we continue to move forward, and as we get a little bit closer to everybody, the Caribbean, the Southeast, the Gulf, where is the energy? Well, I actually have to flip this to the 850 volt map here to actually show the energy in the low levels of the atmosphere when the precipitation output doesn't show us anything. And it's right here. You see this kind of area of yellowish orange? That is our wave. And I know this doesn't look any different than really this in the Gulf or this off the coast of the Southeast, but that is it. And it never develops into anything. Now, if I keep this going, if it can keep going for me, it does try to develop some sort of spin off the coast of the Southeast, but that is not Invest 91L. This is something totally different. But I will say after day 10, The operational run does show a quick spin up off the coast of the southeast and eventually does get into Georgia, South Carolina, as you can tell right here. And this coming up on your screen, this is a totally different wave. So to wrap that up with the Euro, it doesn't really develop anything. And it started showing signs of this yesterday afternoon. So it is beginning to, you can call it a trend now. And there's been some shifts in other model runs that's been reflecting this also. The GFS, which we know can, be a little off sometimes. We'll just, say it kindly for the GFS. It continues more of an aggressive scenario in the short and medium term. So we start off this Sunday morning, September the 7th, this weekend. And it's initializing this as a 1010 millibar low. It does strengthen this into a tropical storm early next week. We're getting into Monday, September the 8th, 997. Remember, the lower this number drops, the stronger the low pressure. And kind of maintains, gets a little bit stronger, then a little bit weaker, but it's around a tropical storm. And then, it just sort of maintains that strength. And we get into, it's about a week out from right now, next Friday morning, September the 12th. And it has a low-end Category 1 hurricane strong tropical storm moving into the Leeward Islands. Now we'll go on and flip it to this, and we'll have to fast forward a little bit here. What does it do after this? Well, we continue to move forward. This begins to gain some latitude, get further north. We get all the way into next Saturday morning, September the 13th. Not this Saturday morning, next Saturday morning. And this begins to get north, and it begins to strengthen into a stronger hurricane. We'll just say that. Based off millibar, this is probably a Category 2. And this is as far out as we can go. Okay, so shows a 962, which would probably be a major low-end Category 3 hurricane right here in the middle of the Southwest Atlantic. Kind of close to where Hurricane Aaron was, a little bit further east. So where does it go after this? Well, honestly, it doesn't really matter too much because we got to figure out if this system's even going to develop. But the GFS, in a nutshell, continues to be very aggressive. And if we continue this, if we go to the run prior to this, the GFS actually sends this more so into the Caribbean. So this is the run prior. This is the current run. This is the run from overnight. I mean, that is a huge difference. But I'm telling you, I really don't even think we should focus on any of this right here. And yes, it does sneak this into the Gulf, or at least a little bit into it. And then, yes, it does hit southwest Florida as a hurricane. But, it's hard to take this serious. The latest run, which we don't have, we're everywhere. The latest run, I'm sorry, we'll get this right eventually. Like I said, has a hurricane getting north of the Caribbean about 10 days from now. So it's hard for me to take the GFS super serious right now because I really think, honestly, there's no real reason of me showing you anything past day 7 right now, but we always do that because we want to see how close the models are, even in the long range. But I will tell you, the Icon, which isn't necessarily the best model to use for the tropics, but it is model guidance, has, kind of taken the route of the GFS and been very aggressive. Well, on its latest run, it keeps this as a weak tropical wave, and it never even develops into a tropical storm as we get into about Tuesday night, Wednesday morning of next week. And it keeps this as a 1,009 millibar low. If you look at the run prior to this, it's a hurricane by next Tuesday morning. From the run overnight, the run this morning isn't even a tropical storm. So there has been a little bit of a trend to a weaker system. Now, a lot of people might want to, and I would say this too, I'm not disagreeing with you, might want to say, if this system remains weak, it could still explode in, say, the Caribbean or eventually the Gulf. Well, it could, but I wouldn't always assume that every environment is the same as the last, right? So I wouldn't assume that it could because, listen, at the end of the day, we are honestly not in a super favorable phase right now in the Atlantic for tropical activity. The thing that's working for more tropical activity is the fact that we have just a favorable climo period. I mean, it's pretty much we're getting into prime peak hurricane season. The technical peak hurricane season date is September the 10th. So we're pretty much getting right up to that. We're pretty much right in peak hurricane season right now, at least in the beginning stages of it. So that's working kind of against what is not the most favorable MJO phase for tropical development right now. Now we'll even look at the Canadian model. Okay, the Canadian model continues the steady development and eventually takes this as a tropical storm, maybe low in Category 1 hurricane, into the Lesser Antilles about a week from today, and sneaks this into the sort of in areas of the Caribbean and eventually begins to gain some latitude, but certainly would threaten the islands. Now, let me say this. The Euro AI model has never liked this storm. I've been mentioning this a lot, and this is why I continue to show it. It is not like this storm at all. I think the strongest it's gotten this storm at any given time is like maybe a tropical depression. And sure enough, the Euro AI model continues to be a very weak scenario. There's nothing to really even show you on this map. It's not even there. This right here is another wave. This is not even Invest 91L, this tropical wave we're discussing. It's a totally different wave. I mean, there's nothing really to show you because it doesn't reflect anything. Now, what about some hurricane models? I always like to look at the HF-A and HF-B model. The HF-A model, okay, it's pretty aggressive. All right, it wants to get this as we get into the later half of this weekend to a tropical storm and actually a hurricane by the time we wake up Monday morning, September the 8th. And then it kind of weakens it and just kind of maintains tropical storm status as we get into next Tuesday night, Wednesday morning, the 9th into the 10th. It kind of maintains a stronger system. I would say if you had to put it in one category or the other, the strong category or the weak category in the short to medium term, you would put this model run probably in the strong category. Now, what about the HF-B model? It follows the Euro and doesn't develop this really at all. I mean, there's energy there, but it's so weak it doesn't even pop up an L on our screen. So one thing that we always harp on, and everybody in the weather community does, is ensembles. What is it showing? Well, it clearly follows the operational Euro run, and remember, this makes up 51 members too, and we only have maybe a couple handfuls of members that actually develops this. All these L's showing up on your screen back here is a totally different tropical wave. But the members it does develop, some of them get pretty strong. We got a 931, Category 4, 5 hurricane. We got a lot of hurricanes in here, but it just doesn't develop many members at all. So there is a trend clearly, got a sneeze coming. There is a trend clearly to this not even developing on the Euro. This is the run from yesterday afternoon's Euro. Okay, now many more members, but there was already a trend starting yesterday. I would say there was a trend starting with the Euro last night. It just, you had to really dive deep into what you were seeing to really notice it. But I noticed it, but there's been a trend for about 24 hours on the Euro showing this not even developing. And honestly, to kind of wrap up some of my thinkings on this system, and we'll round it off by looking also at the GFS ensemble. Remember, this only makes up 21 members. And I mean, there's maybe half the members that form something. If you had to ask me, hey, if you had to say, Mitch, what do you think is going to happen with this? I would say we focus on the short term. And I would say you look at the tropical system itself right now, which we showed you at the beginning of the video. And I would say it looks like it doesn't look good at all. In the National Hurricane Center, the experts are saying 60% chance to potentially develop between now and the weekend. And it's hard to imagine that happening. Has a high chance to develop. But heck, models like the Euro, which I know sometimes is not the best with strength in the tropics. It downplays the heck out of stuff sometimes. But if you compare what the Euro and some other weaker models are showing to what's actually happening right now, it makes sense. But I would honestly right now say, if I had to choose, I would say, hey, I think we need to watch this weaker trend. And honestly, I favor that a little bit more over a stronger system. Now, I'm not going to speak on steering currents anymore because right now, my focus now is back to, is this going to develop? I was starting to kind of ooze into steering currents over the last couple videos because Model Guidance was really locking into the idea of this developing. Not so much anymore. We need to focus more on, is this going to develop? And if you look at the Euro and you look at dry air in the mid levels, the brown is dry air, the green is moist air. Pretty cut and dry, right? So our actual tropical wave is like right in here. A little plume of moist air, not much. And it's having to plow pretty much right into all this dry air right here. And this is the system itself. Definitely more moist air down here, further south in latitude. So it's going to have to plow through all of this. And it struggles doing that. And I mean, ultimately, it just never develops. It's surrounded by dry air. This is the little plume of moist air with our invest. I mean, there's just not much there, guys. So it really doesn't develop. That's why, because just a lot of dry air. I mean, that's pretty much it. Now on the GFS, it's initializing this with a much more moist air mass. And it says that it taps into a more of a moist air mass as we get through the weekend. And by Sunday evening, GFS likes the idea of a tropical storm developing, and it's not being affected by as much dry air. And just the environment in general doesn't look as dry as what the Euro is modeling. And we continue to move forward. This kind of cocoons itself with some moist air. And yes, there's going to be some sort of tut in place, but the GFS just in general survives the dry air and does whatever it's going to do. You know, in the Southwest Atlantic, it looks like it's going to stay out to sea. It looks like you can see a big plume of dry air. This to me looks like some sort of cold front. It's probably going to kick it out. So, yeah, I mean, I think we need to figure out the short term of this first. And now that the model guidance is, there's a war in model runs on if this is going to develop or not. We need to focus on that. Now, you got hurricane, I think it's pronounced Kiko, out here in the Eastern Pacific. I know I don't cover this a whole lot, but I think I should because, you know, it could affect a state, Hawaii. I want to mention that there's an assumption that probably the waters all around the Hawaiian Islands are very warm. They're pretty warm, but I want you guys to note that once you get kind of north of the Hawaiian Islands, the waters cool significantly. They're a lot cooler sea surface temperatures. But right now, this is a major Category 3 hurricane. 125 mile per hour storm. Forecast, maintain her Category 3 status, major status through the weekend, and then gradually weaken. And it does say Hawaii is in the cone, all the islands. And it's saying right now, maybe a weak hurricane, weak Category 1 hurricane, strong tropical storm could pass around the islands as we are getting wind. This is 2 a.m. Wednesday, so we got to watch early next week. I definitely think this could bring impacts. And if we look at the Euro run, sure enough, it gets it very close as a tropical storm, low-end Category 1 hurricane sometime next Tuesday evening. So this could definitely bring impacts for sure. So we need to watch, and we'll get a little bit more detailed on this when we need to. But let's go on and talk about today's weather. We got a big plume of moisture going through Kansas, areas of Oklahoma, moisture down here in Texas, New Mexico. It's raining in areas of Nevada, Utah, and Arizona. We got a big trough swinging down into the northern sections of the country. This is bringing just a very fall-like morning, rainy-like morning here in the UP of Michigan, areas of lower Michigan. We got some showers drifting down into northern sections of Minnesota, some showers in Maine also, and a little bit of moisture across and just west of the Appalachian Mountains. But, watches, warnings, and advisories. These are actually freeze watches across North Dakota. We got red flag warnings across Oregon and Northern California. It's very dry. Outside of that, some flood watches across New Mexico. Big storyline today for today's weather is a severe weather threat. We have a slight risk, level 2 out of 5. Across the Tennessee Valley, down into northern areas of Alabama and Mississippi, up through Kentucky, all the way into West Virginia. So marginal risk does extend all the way back down to the Dallas-Fort Worth area, includes Memphis, Little Rock, Shreveport. But just kind of zooming into this area, there is a 2% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of any given location in this, green area. Nashville, Lexington, up to Parkersburg, Charleston, West Virginia, Huntington. 2% risk of a tornado. Now, really one of the things driving this today is there's a 15% risk of winds exceeding 55 to 60 miles per hour. So wind threat is legit today, and this is really driven off a cold front. Hail threat, 5% risk, not as high. The risk of excessive rainfall, pretty low across the board. Not really much worth getting detailed on. The southeast, as far as what could happen today, a lot of rain dancing around the peninsula of Florida. Thunderstorms, definitely a rainy day in Miami, the Florida Keys, and areas of the northern Bahamas. Rain will be just kind of storm activity, or just tropical activity in general will be just kind of moving around the area. And then you see a lot of storm activity moving across Kentucky and Tennessee, northern Mississippi, Arkansas, northern Alabama, up through Kentucky and West Virginia. And really just to take a closer look at this, I really don't think that the thunderstorm activity becomes widespread until later tonight. Like, this is starting off around 6 p.m. We got some thunderstorms just now forming around Nashville. We get into 7. We get into 8. Look at those thunderstorms kind of east of Nashville, Cookeville up to Somerset. And then we start to take it into 10. And really it takes till about 10 o'clock before storms become more widespread. And as you can tell, there's storms scattered across Tennessee, Kentucky. This is 11, this is 12, and it just could be a Friday night where we get some late night boomers. So you might get woken up by some thunderstorms, really anywhere in Tennessee, up into Kentucky, up in the areas of southern Ohio, West Virginia. And this will continue, and we'll get some thunderstorms. It's kind of been an on and off stormy week across areas of kind of along the Appalachian Mountains and just west of them. Heck, it'd be nice to get some rain here in South Carolina. We haven't had any rain since mid-August. But thunderstorms, this is like 4 o'clock in the morning, rolling through Knoxville, Pikeville, and just eventually getting all the way into the southern Appalachian Mountains. So definitely be aware of some thunderstorms in this area. These could produce some damaging winds. Up here in the Northeast today, not a whole lot of weather. Those thunderstorms will get going in extreme southern Ohio, West Virginia later on tonight, really. Some showers could drift around across the Northeast, and then we'll wake up tomorrow morning to some light rain across PA, the southern tier of New York. Not a big deal, though. Continue to move forward to south central U.S. We're dealing with some rain this morning, and we will continue just to deal with a rainy day, cool day, probably across Kansas, and some thunderstorms around western Texas, watch New Mexico, Colorado. And then we start to move into, say, later this evening, some thunderstorms possible around Memphis, maybe Little Rock, and could get some thunderstorms later tonight, like midnight and after, across Arkansas, especially the southern areas of the state. Just enough flow out there to just get scattered showers and storms riding through. The north central U.S., low swinging on through and then out. We'll continue just to get a steady kind of westerly, northwesterly flow across this area. And look at these lake effect rain streamers. Not snow yet, but that is the look of lake effect snow. But this is just rain. So you can tell there's some cooler air going across some of these Great Lakes when you start to see those streamers at the bottom edge of Lake Superior. So 'tis the season. We're getting closer. That's for sure. So moving forward, the western U.S., I think it was Lorena. Once upon a time, really just yesterday into the day before, we thought that this was going to really send a big plume of moisture up into sort of Arizona and maybe New Mexico, but this is really just kind of trended towards staying in the eastern Pacific. But, we could still get scattered showers across the western U.S. today, but I don't think there's going to be any high impact threat of flooding or anything like that. But temperatures today will be wild. You can clearly see where there's a cold front on your map, right? Cooler air, warmer air. That is our cold front diving down. So it'll be big time heating across the deep south, southeast. It'll feel like summer again. But it is cool, fall-like weather up here. Quite chilly. You'll need a coat or a jacket today and across some of these areas for sure. And then this is the western U.S. And that's it. I know I didn't speak much on, say, the cold air, but I feel like we've taught that to death, and we pretty much said what needs to be said with that. But folks, that's all I got. We'll continue to watch the tropics. But a little bit of some good news for, say, the Lesser Antilles. Now we could totally flip back the other way, but I will tell you that the GFS normally is a follower. It's not a leader. It's normally a follower. So I would not be surprised one bit if the next video we do, we're talking about the GFS has a weaker trend to it. And, that's just what the GFS does. It tries to lead the pack, but it's not a natural born leader, so it ends up being a follower, if that makes sense. So that's all I got, guys. Y'all have a wonderful day. Have a great beginning to your weekend. I should have a video tonight, but honestly, if things really back off, I might not. It just depends. It depends. So thank y'all for everything. Have a wonderful day, and we'll talk again soon.